Hello, hi, and welcome back to Speaking About Speaking with me, Jackie Goddard, after a break of a couple of weeks. So it's lovely to be back. And I was just talking to my guest, Maureen McCowen, here about the fact that I am trying to re-familiarize myself with how this all works. So lovely to be here and lovely to have you with me, Maureen.
Thank you very much, Jackie. Delighted to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
Oh, no, it's lovely to have you here. So just a little bit of an intro to Maureen. You are a public speaking coach and founder of Soft Skill Success. Mm-hmm. And you work with teams and individuals to unlock their speaking confidence. So you're in the right place.
Yes, it sounds like it.
So you've got 30 years of experience of presenting, teaching, and connecting, and you're on a mission to take the fear out of speaking in public. Mm-hmm. And you believe that there's no reason why networking, pitching, reporting, and presenting can't be productive, successful, and enjoyable for everyone. Mm-hmm. So you're absolutely a woman after my own heart. So yeah. So tell us a little bit about your background and the background to Soft Skill Success.
So Soft Skill Success, I started in 2019, and prior to that, I had been a secondary school teacher here in Ireland. So I'm living in Ireland, quite close to Dublin, and I was teaching languages, so Irish and French. So communication skills have been there all along. And I took a career break back in 2018, in September 2018, and decided I was going to do something different. And long story short, the something different ended up training as a trainer, and then eventually setting up my own business in February of 2019. And the reason for training in this area and public speaking was I had been a member of Toastmasters for about 11 years. And in that, one of the roles that I did, as all members can do, is that you can mentor other members coming in. And I could see the challenge that so many people had from the nervousness that they had from speaking in public and how much it was holding them back. I remember one new member, I was her mentor. She was giving her first speech one evening, and I was sitting beside her beforehand, and she said to me afterwards, said, if I hadn't been sitting there, she would have ran out of the room. She was so nervous. So, and that can transfer to the workplace as well, and it holds people back. So I knew that there was a need there. I felt that I had the skills and the ability to be able to help people, and that's how it started.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I mean, Toastmasters is a great institution for people just to get up and practice. Yes. Why do you think people, if they are that nervous, why do you think they put themselves through it? Why would they join something like Toastmasters knowing that they have to step in front of an audience and speak?
Yeah, I think it's because they have to do it in the workplace very often, and they have to get a practice space somewhere. And I suppose Toastmasters offers that. It is a slow burner when it comes to it. You know, you've got a long time to make progress over a long period of time, but it is that safe environment that is good for helping people to develop those skills. And one of the things that I really liked about it was it's so much more than delivering speeches, that you have the opportunity in so many different areas. I know, are you familiar with Toastmasters, Jackie? Have you been a member?
No, I've not. And I really should, just because of what I do. But I've worked with people that are members of Toastmasters. So I've obviously helped. I think there were a couple of Toastmaster members that were doing something specific, and so Toastmasters asked me to come in and work with these two particular members. So I've worked with them, but I've never sort of been along.
Yeah, no, it's you know, one of the elements of it is where you have table topics. So it's where and it's a fun part of the evening, but a topic is given and that you have to speak on for between a minute and 2 minutes if you can. And that was my biggest challenge at the start. I found that so difficult. And it's even coming to realize, do you know what? If I don't have anything to say on this topic, that's okay. And the ground doesn't open up and swallow me if I say the wrong thing or make a mistake. Yeah. And it's one of the things, I suppose, that we have to come to realize, that, you know, the world doesn't actually revolve around us and what we say, and people aren't waiting for us to make mistakes and to fall flat on our faces. And I think that's a good learning to have in itself as well, and to become more relaxed about what we're saying and if we're making a mistake or not. it's, move on. It's life.
No, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, I've started a speaker club over here on the South
Mm,
Coast where I live. And it's lovely to, I suppose I mean, I've never been to a Toastmasters, but it must be similar because I have a section which I just call like an open mic or a hot seat. Which is what I used to do in my acting classes when I was teaching
mm.
acting, was to get people onto a chair and just throw a topic at them, which I assume is kind of what Toastmasters does. I've got a series of questions that people have to, it's like a lucky dip. They pull out of a bucket and, they have a question or a statement that they have to speak about for a minute. And yeah, so I assume that's quite similar.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. But it is
And
that thing of kind of getting comfortable with talking off the top of your head and as you say, knowing that the ground isn't going to open up and swallow you, that there are no mistakes, that it's actually not about you. Most of the time, it's actually about the audience and the people that you are speaking to.
it is. It
Yeah,
is. And, and so much of it depends on how you deal with that situation as well. Because if you're up at the top of the room, or if somebody is sitting on that hot seat that you have, and if they are really uncomfortable with, the topic, and that being uncomfortable is transmitted to the audience, and the audience feel uncomfortable for them. Whereas if they have that question and they're thinking, I don't know what I'm going to say, but they can relax and they laugh and they're relaxed about it, then the audience feel comfortable for them as well. And it's the same from a confidence point of view. I'm a member of the Professional Speakers Association now, and a couple of events that I've been to, and I've seen people where they have got a complete blank, completely forgot what they were going to say in the middle of it. And two people that I saw that both handled it differently, but really, really well. And one person just stopped speaking. She literally dropped her head. You could see that she was gathering her thoughts. She looked completely calm. So the audience were completely calm. And then when she got her place, she lifted her head and she carried on. And the rest of the speech went perfectly. And the other person had their notes over to the side. So she just looked, she gave a bit of a smile, walked very casually over to the side, glanced at her notes, and then came back, took her space, and continued. And in both cases, it was really powerful the way that they dealt with it. Whereas if they had started to get flustered and upset, then that transfers to the audience.
absolutely. Absolutely. It is that, I say it all the time that the audience will mirror whatever it is that you are presenting. So if you are feeling embarrassed or awkward or flustered, then that makes the audience feel exactly the same. So yeah, keep your calm and don't worry. As long as you've got the audience on your side by walking out confidently and engaging them, then they'll go with you. They'll be very happy to wait and absolutely understand, because it was 73% of people are more afraid of public speaking than they are of dying. So you can guarantee that 73% of the audience will be on your side because they know how it feels to be frightened of actually speaking in public.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about the teaching background and what you've brought from being a teacher into the space that you inhabit now.
Well, it's interesting because when I was leaving the teaching world behind me, first of all, I was thinking, what skills do I have, or how am I going to be able to adapt and change into a different world? But it's very, very similar. If I'm working with a company and I'm putting a training program together for them, it's the planning and the pre-work and the exercises that you're doing and thinking about how you're going to build in engagement. All of that comes naturally to me. It's second nature to me. When COVID hit and everybody was thrown into a situation where we all had to think about, how do I adapt and how do I change? I was used to adapting and changing class plans at the drop of a hat from my teaching days. I taught, most of my career was teaching in an all-boys school. And you could arrive into a class one day and suddenly discover that half of them were gone because they had a football match that they were playing, but they hadn't told you about it because they didn't want to be given extra work when they were off. So you have to adapt on the fly and just get, a class that's going to be delivered and be able to do that. So all of those skills come in very, very handy for something like this, and the amount of learning that I've done since setting up a business regardless of what the business is, but the amount of learning that I've had to do about sales and marketing and all sorts of things. Social media, because when I was teaching, my social media accounts were all totally private. I wasn't allowing anybody access to anything. So that was a big mind shift that I had to do to become visible on social media and putting out posts and putting out videos and the information that I put out there to help people. So all of that was a big change as well. So there's lots of, I suppose, elements from my previous life that I've brought, and then adding to that as well now. So it's big changes.
Yeah, no, I'm sort of from a teaching. I didn't teach in schools necessarily, but I taught after school clubs and workshops for the last sort of 30 odd years. So it's 30 odd years. What am I talking about? 20 odd years. To make myself really old. And actually, there's so many transferable skills. And I know so many people in our space that have come from a teaching background, because I think just the practice of standing in front of a class and speaking every day is just something we get used to. It's something that's part of our everyday life.
Yeah. You do. And, you know, there's voice projection and all those type of things that are there, but it's dealing with, you know, different learning styles. You've got that, you know, there are things that are second nature that you don't even think about anymore, you know, just what you do. So, it definitely has transferred very well.
Yeah, absolutely. If there's anybody out there listening, then please do drop us a question in the comments, because we're happy to answer any questions you might have about speaking. We're going to move on, and I'm going to ask a question any minute now about soft skills and why Maureen has called her company Soft Skill Success, because I think that's a huge area that has been undervalued in the workspace. So if anybody's got any questions out there about that, or would like to make a comment, then please do add them. And if you're watching on the replay, do leave a comment or a question below, and we will endeavor to get back to you. So yeah, please do join in, come and join us. So Maureen, on that subject of soft skill, why did you call your company Soft Skill Success, and what to you is the value of learning soft skills?
So the name, I suppose, when anybody's starting out a business and it's the big thing, what am I going to call it? What's the name going to be? And at the beginning, when I was starting out, I was thinking, what exactly am I going to be delivering training in? What's this going to look like? And the whole soft skill area seemed very broad for starters, but it also seemed very interesting and necessary. And the more that I was reading about it and learning about it, the more necessary that I realized that it was. But the name then sort of changed, not that the name, but the direction that I brought the business in changed slightly, because when I was at one of my first networking events, because I started networking before the business was officially founded, because I had to get to know people and get to know business people coming from a different background. But a piece of advice that I got from my business very early on was, you need to niche down, and that if I was going to be delivering soft skills training with a whole range that could fall under that umbrella, that it was too broad. So I decided, okay, I'm going to focus on what I know and what I'm comfortable with, and that was the communication and presentation skills. So then it was, do I change the business name? And I decided not to, because it was keeping it broad to allow for expansion if that's a route that I choose to go. So that's a very long answer to how the name came about. But for the need for it, you know, it's something that we hear about so often. And if you take a look at any of the studies that come out or reports that come out of the top skills that employers are looking for, soft skills comes out so frequently. And whether that is for negotiation skills or being able to, you know, listening, which is a hugely undervalued communication skill, whether it is being able to lead meetings effectively, whether it's being able to deal with awkward questions at meetings, and all of those elements of communication skill. It's far more than standing on a stage and delivering a presentation or delivering a speech. When people are thinking about public speaking, it's putting yourself into a range of situations and the skills that are so necessary for that, you know. And very often I think people don't even think about the implications of it all. I know there was a client that I had recently came to me and said, I need help with my public speaking. When I was asking him about how is he when he's leading a meeting, yeah, no problem. How is he when he's contributing to a meeting? Yeah, no problem. And that's public speaking, but it's under a different category. So the issue that he had, the challenge that he had, was actually delivering presentations. And when you take a look at it, it's seeing, well, what areas do I really need help with? If it's a case that you're looking for help with public speaking skills, what elements is it? Because it fascinates me the number of people who leave voice messages on radio shows here in Ireland. It's a very popular way. DJs love when people have voice messages, and all of those, it's public speaking, and you don't have people shying back from that. So I think an awful lot of it is our perception of it. So again, it's going slightly off tangent there from your soft skills question, but focusing in on the area, I suppose, that I would be the most familiar with within that large, broad umbrella.
Yeah, no, it's silly, isn't it, when we think about that? Because people don't think of those kind of things as soft skills, being able to, because we do it every single day. We improvise. I take people through improvisation exercises in my speaker club, and you can see they're all kind of cowering before we get started, because it's just such an awful thing to have to think about. But it's what we do every day. I'm improvising right now. I don't have a script. You
Yes.
don't have a script.
Yes.
We converse. It's a two-way conversation. And it's the same when you get on a stage or in front of an audience or in a boardroom, in a presentation. It is, even though it's you doing most of the speaking, it is a two-way street. Your audience are listening, they're contributing, they are there. So we need people to kind of just relax into it and realize that actually, this is what you do in your everyday life. It isn't any different. It's just being confident in yourself. And I find sometimes, and I don't know if you do, that sometimes all people need is just the permission to speak. Some people sort of think they should be this kind of way, or they should be this kind of person in order to fit in. And actually, when you say to them, no, you can be yourself, just be yourself.
100%.
And that's it. That you kind of give them that permission, and away they go.
Yes. And there's an element of relief then that they don't have to fit into a certain type of persona in order to be a good speaker. It's something that I would talk about quite a lot for that there's room for everybody there, and it doesn't have to be, the loud, flamboyant person who just takes over the whole room. You could be a very effective speaker and be very quiet, but confident in your knowledge. When you're confident in what you're doing, confident that you're adding value to a conversation, or that you're adding value in the talk that you're delivering, then you're doing a good job when it comes to that.
Absolutely. Well, we've got a contribution here. I haven't read it all through, so from a user on LinkedIn. Hello, user on LinkedIn. There's a perception that soft skills are less important than hard ones, but they are complementary, and speaking in public isn't as essential as working a spreadsheet. It all contributes to the bottom line. Would you agree with that?
Yes, absolutely. Because if you take about that speaking in public, and if you're talking about soft skills, it can be the approach of somebody on the telephone. If somebody is answering a phone and what they're like, all of those areas where you are dealing with the public and speaking with the public, whether that is in a business situation, somebody on the shop floor in your business, or whether it is at a networking event, or that you're speaking at an event, all of them, it's the impression that you're creating. It's your brand that's there all of the time, that you're and how you're portraying yourself.
Yeah. I mean, it works certainly with people running their own businesses, that speaking is a way of really getting across their personal brand, and really putting getting people to know, like, and trust them through the way that they communicate. So it's a very, very essential part of your personal brand.
Yes.
So do you work mainly in companies, or do you work with individuals? Do you work with people that run their own businesses?
So there's a mixture. At the start of when I was first setting out, it was very much people who were running their own businesses that I would have met at networking events, and very often it was for that 60-second pitch, that elevator pitch that people liked how I had done mine and wanted help in developing their own. So that was the starting point, which was great because it got me known and got those first few testimonials in and so on. But it has progressed as time has gone on, and a lot of the work that I'm doing at the moment is more delivering in-house training into companies. So that's going to be tailored to whatever it is that they're looking for. Very often it's sales teams, even though it's not sales training, it is on their presentations, but the sales team who want to upskill in that area. And it's recognizing that, the way that they were delivering presentations, maybe where they had lots of information about the company and the background, and you've got the corporate slide deck and all of those things, that there's a different way of doing it, and that they can connect, because it has to be about connecting with that audience, whoever that audience is. So how do they connect, and how do they deliver that message well? And for one-to-one clients, very often they are either newly promoted or they have their eye on a promotion and they want to upskill, that they know that this is an area that they need to really work on. So that communication skills and presentation skills, and developing those so that they can lead those meetings effectively, or that they can be confident when they're speaking to their client or more senior management or whatever it's going to be. So and there's great variety in it, which is one of the things that I love as well. That client that I was working with, I delivered training to his company. He was the MD of a company. So I'd delivered training to their sales team, but also individually to him, because there was an anniversary meal coming up and he was delivering a talk at a gala dinner. And then he was at another occasion going to be on a panel for a conference, and he just wanted some guidance and some preparation for that. And that's back to what we were talking about earlier. When you're talking about more impromptu type of speaking situations, you can still have some preparation work done for that panel, even though it's going to be more off the cuff, but there's still work that you can do in advance and thinking through.
Absolutely. I'm just going to, I've got another comment here from Mo, this time LinkedIn user. Our last LinkedIn user was Christoph. So hello, Christoph. This is Mo. Hello, Mo. I like how you mentioned you're speaking when leading a meeting or contributing or in other contexts, reframing how you think about being on the platform and presenting at a conference. Mm-hmm. So it's not just about presentations, as you say. It's really about getting confident and used to speaking in those situations where you don't have a script, you don't have a planned presentation, but just being confident enough to speak in any situation.
Yeah, because you still might need at that, it might be an internal meeting that you're at, but you still might need to influence others, to persuade them to your point of view. So you need to have those skills to be able to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, got a question here, which is, how can you discover and develop your style as a public speaker?
I think that the important thing is that your style is who you are when you're not in a public speaking mode as well, that there's not this big disconnect between how you appear in one situation and another. I was delivering a talk at the Professional Speaking Association there recently, and one person that came up to me afterwards, she said, "You were exactly the same as what you are when I'm chatting to you, over a cup of coffee." And that to me is what public speaking is about. It's not suddenly putting on, I'm now moving into speaker mode and talking that way. It is having that connection and being yourself. And it's the same if I have videos of a YouTube channel with videos and video tips and so on. And the way I am on those is the way that I am here now, or if I was having a cup of coffee with somebody. So it's finding, depending on the circumstances that are there, but even if it's in a formal setting, you can still be yourself and the relaxed conversational type of situation. If you're thinking, I'm delivering a speech and it's me delivering a speech, that's one mindset. Whereas if it's like, I've got important information I want to share with this audience, and I'm switching into being focused about them, how am I going to deliver that in a way that they're going to find interesting, that they're going to remember? And if I switch my focus, that I'm thinking about that audience and how I can connect with them and have a conversation with them, then my speaking style evolves. And that very much would be my take on that.
Yeah, I think I would absolutely agree with that. I think it really is. It is about how you engage with an audience and how you make them interested is to be you, and exactly that is to think about them and not about you. Got an add-on to that. Do you not need to put on a bit of a show on a big occasion?
That's an interesting one there. I think, if it's a big occasion, so I'm going to define a big occasion in this case, that if you're on a stage, if I'm on a large stage, my presence is going to be amplified rather than if I'm speaking in a small room. But the me, we should still be coming through in the same way. So it might be a more exaggerated version. If you've got your hand gestures are going to be larger, you're going to be using your space differently, but the essence of who you are should remain the same.
Yeah,
that would be my take on how to put on that show in a larger context.
Absolutely, and I agree with that. When you have those big occasions and you are on that stage, if you try to be somebody that you're not, that's when you're going to stumble and feel uncomfortable, because you have it in your mind that you might be caught out because you're not being you. If you are being you and you're being authentic, then you can't get caught out, and so that builds a confidence. That means that you're walking onto the stage with a confidence and an ability to really just be yourself. So I think, yes, use the stage, use the occasion, but absolutely at the heart, you need to be you. So we're coming up to our half an hour already. Can you believe that?
Flies.
And I just have to ask, because I ask everybody, is in your opinion, Maureen, what makes a good speaker good and a bad speaker suck?
Okay, I suppose we've touched a little bit on it already, because I think what makes that good speaker good, it is somebody who is authentic and is able to create that connection with the audience, whether the audience is small or whether it's in a large group. And that connection is being genuine, and doesn't mean that they're falling into a particular mold of what they think a good speaker should be. What makes a bad speaker suck? I think if it's the reverse of it, it's somebody who is focused on themselves. If they're coming out of their thinking, we'll say at a large event, somebody who is very much more interested in showing what they can do and talking about themselves than what they are in relating it to how that connects in with the audience. It really is about knowing where people are coming from and being able to meet them at that level and showing that you're interested in them. And if you don't, if you just want to talk about your own credentials, or you want to, highlight everything about your latest book or whatever it's going to be, without thinking about the people who are listening to you and how this relates to them, then I think that's what's really going to make a speaker suck, that they're not going to do their best, they're not going to connect, because people aren't going to care. That would be what I would take on that, Jackie.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Again, I've enjoyed speaking with you, because I think we're absolutely coming from the same page. So yeah, a person that isn't listening to the audience and doesn't know who their audience is, hasn't actually even taken the time to find out who it is that they're speaking to. That really does. So very quickly, any best advice that you were ever given as a speaker?
Best advice as a speaker would be, it was a Toastmasters competition that I was in a number of years ago, and it was a good speech, but I think what let me down was that I was focused on my movements and staging my movements, and that created that lack of connection with the audience, because in my head, I wasn't thinking about them. I was thinking about, I need to move over to this part of the stage, or I have to do this. And so that you know, being yourself and not being too staged with your movements in that type of situation was something that stayed with me. And, you know, again, it's fallen back into that authenticity that we're talking about today.
Yeah. Yeah. Not being natural because you're too busy thinking about something else.
Yes. Yeah.
Just a very last comment here. It's hard to be humble when you're perfect in every way.
Interesting.
Yeah, definitely. Oh, well, it's been fantastic talking to you, Maureen. Thank you so much for coming on and speaking about speaking with me. I've really enjoyed having you.
And likewise, Jackie, thank you so much for inviting me on.
Oh, you're more than welcome. And thank you to everybody that's put comments and interacted with us. And as I say, if you're watching on the replay, then still add a comment, a question, whatever. We will certainly get back to you when we can. So thank you. Thank you, everybody, for watching. I'll be here next week with Anna Bravington. And Maureen McCowen, thank you so much for being here. It's been a joy.
My pleasure, Jackie. Thank you so much. Bye now.
Bye-bye.